So I said, you know what? Let's go to the most conflict part of the story. Of course, we have to put the drama up front.
There's space for books that where they have a teaching point, but where it's kind of like woven into the story. You know, like Rory's book or the book I wrote for Todd Herman, where you have the teaching point, but it's not shared in a preachy way. You know,
Right.
there are lots of books on kindness, and so then they're like, you need to be kind, you know, and in order to be kind, you need to do this and that. So these stories are still nice, but it's less woven into a story. And I think those are the stories that are missing still, where it's nicely packaged into the story. It's baked into the story itself, you know? So I think that's what's still missing. There's still a lot of potential, but I mean, and there's a reason for this. It's because they're harder to write. I don't know how other people feel about this, but I've heard now that a lot of people, they have a story, but then they can't translate it into a visual. So for example, when I did the book trailers, people they never really had a visual idea, but whenever I had something in mind, I could already see it. So I guess I can do both, I guess.
Both. Oh, wow.
Also, when I write my children's books, I already know exactly what illustration I want on each page.
Yeah. Wow.
You know? So yeah. So I see that already.
See it as you write. You're visualizing as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's you have no idea. Like when you sent me the link to the animation, I was like, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I thought it was so amazing, but then I also, in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, how many hours did you spend doing this? Because you know, I know exactly, well, I don't know your process, but you know, like just animating a head, you know, if you don't have the elements separate, which you didn't, you know, like meaning the different layers, we didn't have the layers, right? So that means you had to take whatever, the head, you had to add stuff to it, you had to put stuff behind it because
you gotta fill it.
You know what I mean? You had to fill the background and like all these things. Yeah. Every single move, like even just the eye roll, you had to like mask the eyes, take this out and animate them, put the frame in, you know.
Like I discovered what was an illusion, and I just use it to my advantage. So yes, there was a lot of work up front, just isolating each scene, and especially the buffalo scene. The buffalo scene was the one I gave most attention to, because that was like the climax of the story, right? In the story arc, the most tension. And I'm so glad that Rory, like, he spent time just getting people that attention and is sitting in it, you know. There are like 3 scenes with the buffaloes and, you know, the cows. And I did a lot more work there, yes, but then some other scenes on the tail end of the book, it was less involved. You know, there's more, you know, just subtle elements here and there. The scene with the board jumping into the water. His son was on the like the water is moving. Yes, those are some subtle things. Some people would miss it, but by the water suddenly moving and certain things started happening in the background, I didn't need to have the heads moving. You know, so
for sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, with the buffalo scene, that was also harder in that that was the only scene that was repeating, you know, so you had to think of something different, even though it was the same scene. You had to think of something different. Each time
you're so right.
Back around. So
the lightning became a character. The lightning became a character. The rain became a character. Really going on here. The rain is falling. There's lightning. That's danger. All these things I thought would add more drama and conflict. You know, like any good story. And we decided to use, when Rory saw everything, something was missing at the front. It wasn't for the short version, the short format. Something was missing to pull people in, and he caught it. He said something you need something more dramatic. And I felt it too. Like, it was too playful and happy. So I said, you know what? Let's go to the most conflict part of the story, which was where the cow, the buffalo, and meets the boy. And as I did it for the first frame of the teaser, where the boy, the buffalo is, they're head to head, and then there's lightning between them, and the title of the book is there. It was like, it came to me in just seconds when Rory said it. I said, of course we have to put the drama up, so the eyes are blinking in the dark, and the lightning flashing. Very intentional, and credit to your illustrators, and whoever designed it, the actual artwork. I don't know if it was someone on your team or if you yourself, but the concept of just this style of art was so good. It was.
Yes. So the way I usually do it is I create an illustrator brief, and so I write everything I want in terms of, okay, I want on this side, I want the field, and then I want the buffalo to go this way, or I want to have the boy stand in front of the library. So again, he was really involved, which is great, because oftentimes people don't have a visual idea.
Yeah.
But so he had some ideas, and so then I would translate this into what is possible. I write it down, and then I share it with the illustrator. And usually, illustrators already have a certain style.
Yes.
That's a style they have cultivated over years. You can't just come and say, hey, I really like this children's book. Can you draw like this? No, you have to look at their portfolio, and then that's what you have to go with, or you just don't work with this illustrator, so you choose an illustrator based on their style. I knew her style, so I knew it would work really well with this book. And so,
So when a client comes to you with an adult book and they want it to be translated into the kids' book, is it that you show, if they're not clear on their visual direction, is it like you show them a menu of different styles to choose from?
So what I do is I ask them what their favorite children's book is, because that always tells me so much, either from their own childhood, or if they have children, what's a book they really loved reading, to their children, because that helps me again with selecting the style, and then based on that, that's how I select the illustrator.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, because it's personal. It comes from your...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the style they had, so when Rory and AJ came, they said, we really love the Llama Llama series, the way the illustrations are arranged. And so that's what I try to do, because, if you remember, some pages are, double spread, where the illustration covers the left and right, and then some are just spot illustrations. And so, that's what I try to do. Just make each page a little bit different. Yeah,
the variety is important. What would you say is the most challenging part of the project?
So when I work with an entrepreneur, the most challenging part is definitely to translate their book or their concept into a children's book. And it's challenging, but it's also my favorite part, because it's so hard. Every time, I literally have trained myself over the years that, if it's challenging, I'm telling myself, oh, it's so much fun. So I love when I read their book and I start to envision what the children's book story could be. So that's my favorite part, and also most challenging, because again, and that's what I said during AJ's interview as well. The challenge is to take a 250-page book and you turn it into 250 words.
Distill it.
And yes, and so a lot of people think, well, great, children's books, they're so short, so it must be so easy to write, but it's actually harder. There are PhDs that I've listened to, they have had interviews, and they said, I've written many books, but when I tried to turn it into a children's book, it was so much harder. And that's because, you have to pay attention to so many different things, like, okay, is the vocabulary level appropriate? to the
Right.
to the
For the
younger
age group.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so will they be able to understand it? So you have to take this complex concept that they are trying to teach, and you have to be able to tell it in a way that is easy in terms of like easy words, but then also package it into a story, you know.
Yes.
That's what I was mentioning earlier, where that's
Wow.
the tricky part, you know, putting it into a story.
Digestible.
Yes. So
Man.
something that people want to read to their kids, you know.
Yeah.
So
when you're introduced to an author and you're saying, hey, I would love a children's book, is there like an indicator that you look for, anything you listen for to hear like cues to tell if they're ready to really take that step in translating into a kid's book?
Yeah, so I mean, if they have a book, then usually they are ready, just because they already condensed all their knowledge into that book. If not, then I look at their teachings, you know, what are they teaching, what are their teaching points, because hopefully at this, you know, when they come to me, they already have a system that they repeat over and over again. I would say they're not ready if they don't really have a system yet, you know, if it changes every time they teach it, because then you don't really have a reason to write a children's book yet, you know what I mean?
Right. You're not ready.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Man, this is awesome. If you were like to see the future and of kids books, I know is very up and down. Some people, there's a surge where they're more popular, and then sometimes they're not. What are you seeing now, and what are you seeing forecasting for the future? Like, do you think this is going to be a upward trajectory?
Absolutely. I really think, especially since, you know, when people see others, like you were already saying, see those books, because a lot of people, they probably never even thought about this, but then they see someone else, you know, like Rory, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I have a book, and that might be a great children's book. So yeah, I definitely see this become a thing. And so right now you see business books for children, but again, they are still, in my mind, still too not preachy, but you know, not enough story, you know. There's more teaching point than story, and I think that's what will hopefully change. That's what I would like to see, is where it becomes more story,
more charm, more imagination, more. I think I get
it, you know.
Yes.
That's what I want to see. And I think, I mean, it's more work. But I think if you want to set your book apart, then that's what you want to do. You want a book that is not, and you know, I give feedback sessions a lot to fellow children's authors, and that's one of the things I do, is I look at if they have a teaching point. Not every book needs a teaching point, you know. They can also just be for entertainment, but if it is a teaching point, then I always share with them that it should be baked into the story so that it doesn't seem preachy. I know I repeat myself, but it's such a big thing that a lot of people don't see when they write their first children's book. They don't really see that, you know, that kids would much rather have a story where the teaching point is woven in and not feel preached to.
Right. So, how important is it that the books have this rhyme to it, like a riddle kind of rhythmic way of writing? Is that crucial? Like
no, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. But my favorite way of writing is rhyme. It's just, but it's hard. Again, it's harder because
it is hard.
You know, children's books are already short, but then if you write it in rhyme, it's even shorter, and then truly every word counts even more. You know, but no, they don't have to be in rhyme at all. There are so many children's books that are so fun to read, and they're not in rhyme. You know, like Dragons Love Tacos, for example. I love this book so much, and it's not written in rhyme. It's just what is important is that that people already know what age group they want to write their children's books for, because then that will really determine everything, you know, in terms of how long is the book, how many illustrations will be in the book, you know, how hard will the vocabulary be. So you know, that's something you should determine first, and then based on that, write the story.
Wow, incredible. Well, I want to give mad props to you for just pioneering. I don't know a lot of people, actually, I don't know anyone who's who's doing what you're doing. You're owning this space of not just writing kids material, but even attracting adult authors who are thinking of translating their books suitable for kids. I think there's a
Hmm.
space that is untapped, and you're leading it. So, mad props to you.
Well,
You
thank
know,
you. That's so amazing. Yeah, and like
yeah,
I said, I mean, I just when I saw your work, I was like, that's incredible. I was so happy. Well, and I was also just so happy to be able to talk to someone that kind of understood what
yeah.
I'm thinking. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
It's just
I do.
different.
Yeah, when I saw, well, your other work as well, I was like, man, you love this. That's why I felt most of everything. Yes, you found the untapped space. Yes, great business idea. Yes, but you actually love it. I can feel that you love doing what you do. And that's,
Yes.
I think that's rare.